Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, with a cup of tea today. And in this video, if you don't know, if you've not watched my videos before, my name's Vicky. I talk about true crime or all sorts of things. Anything that I think might be interesting for me or for my chatters, for the people, the chatterati that watch my videos. And this weekend, if you're watching this video at the time that it's released, which is January 2024, we're coming up to Burns Night. Burns Night is a big celebration in Scotland to celebrate the poet Robert Burns. And we will be having a fun night on the 22nd of January, a live stream, which will all be about fun, not about crime at all. It'll just be like a party, a typical Burns night. But for this weekend leading up to it, what I decided, because a lot of people who watch my channel are Scottish, and sometimes they send me ideas for videos, etc. And I thought, coming up now to the Burns night, it'd be a good idea to concentrate on these Scottish crimes, just because it's this week will all be about a Scottish theme. And this case is a case that I had read about. I had seen the documentary about it. It's a case with twists and turns, but also it's a difficult case to comment on, because Lynda Spence, the poor girl who was the victim in this case, nobody deserves what happened to Lynda Spence, because she was tortured and murdered over quite a significant length of time by Colin Coates and his accomplice. But the thing is, Lynda had done, I think you can only call it a bit of a silly thing by really more or less stealing money off Colin Coates. And not that it by any way, shape or form that means she deserved what happened to her. She didn't. But she underestimated who she was dealing with. She was dealing with a man who was quite into drugs, we will see, so why when he found out that Lynda had taken money off him, I mean, she did defraud him of quite a substantial amount of money, there's no denying that, but why he went to the lengths that he went to torture Lynda, who knows? It just seems incredible that at his age as well, because he wasn't a young man, had he done anything like this before? Why did he decide to go so far, or why did him and his accomplice decide to go so far in this case to do what they did to Lynda? It just seems completely out of, to go from not, having any, he had no convictions for murder before, so why did he suddenly go to these extremes? That would be my question in this case. Is obviously he was angry with Lynda, and I don't think you can blame him for being angry with her, because she had embezzled quite a lot of money or defrauded him for quite a lot of money, which we'll look into. But still, to go to these extremes, why? And poor Lynda, she did go through hell. She really, literally did go through hell. So, okay, let's start looking about, talking about the story. I'm going to show you a news article. We'll see Colin Coates and Lynda. Let me just share this with you. So here they are. So this is Colin Coates. He has finally admitted to this murder, because for a long time he denied guilt. Lynda's body has never ever been found, and whether it will ever be found, he's supposed to be helping the police now to find, you know, her remains, but they haven't been found yet. Lynda's mother is pleading for information because, you know, she wants to be able to recover her daughter's remains and bury her, you know, or before anything happens to her. So he's, of course, I'm not sure that the other guy has admitted his guilt, but Colin has reportedly admitted his guilt. So his confession comes exactly 12 years after financial advisor Lynda Spence. So they called her a financial advisor. There is some doubt about that. She was a con woman. I mean, Lynda was a con woman. She took money off Colin Coates for a sale of a land, for some sort of land deal, which it turns out didn't exist. So I'm sure she probably defrauded other people as well. But unfortunately for her, she did not know who she was dealing with when she crossed Colin Coates. Anyway, his accomplice is Philip Wade, and they were sentenced to 33 years and 31 years in prison, respectively, for their crimes. So they both pled not guilty, but they were found guilty by a jury after a lengthy trial. So it's always difficult to prosecute, isn't it, when there's no body? Anyway, so apparently he penned a letter from inside his prison, His Majesty's prison, Glenakill in Clackmannanshire, in which he confesses to murdering Lynda. And the newspaper says it's seen the letter written to Lynda's mother, Patricia. And he says, I feel compelled to clarify some background for Patricia Spence with her plight of finding her daughter's remains. Lynda's mother's animus towards me is to be expected. I tortured and killed her daughter. So it is understood that Lynda was bound to a chair for 14 days at the hands of her tormentors, and Coates took her to the attic of her flat, bound her to a chair with tape, put tape over her mouth to stop her screams, and placed glasses with taped up lenses over her eyes. And they alternately used an iron, a golf club, cigarettes and bolt cutters as Lynda sat blindfolded and defenceless before they killed her. They also hired two other accomplices, David Parker and Paul Smith, to guard her between the lengthy torture sessions. And they pled guilty, and they were jailed for 11 years and 3 months, and then 11 years. I think that's a very light sentence. You know, when you think that they knew what was going on then, they could have saved Lynda's life. They were lucky to get away with that sentence. Anyway, apparently Coates' aim was to force Lynda to reveal what she had done with the money she owed to Coates in a bogus land deal. He believed he'd been ripped off, which he had been, to be fair, but he wanted revenge and his money back. And they finally murdered Lynda around April the 28th, 2011. Now, gruesomely, Coates is believed to have cut off her head before disposing of her body. And his chilling letter that is sent to her mother also includes a claim he can assist in finally locating Lynda's remains. Police carried out a dig at a remote location near Dunoon in Argyll last year in the belief her remains might be found in that area. And it was reported that police approached Coates for information on her whereabouts. That's what led him to the search area, but nothing was found. And according to the newspaper, Coates said in his letter to read that Lynda's mum had been preparing funeral arrangements, and that I inadvertently identified the wrong field weighs heavy on my conscience. Now, this is where we have to think. is he playing with Lynda's mother? Because if he is a psychopath, like Ian Brady, you know, and people like that, sometimes they love the fact that they wield that power, that they know where the body is, and that's the only power they have left while they're in prison. You know, they've been removed from society, so they can't do the things they would really like to do, which is carry on, you know, exerting power over people, especially in the case of someone like Ian Brady, who would have probably just kept on killing until he was caught anyway. Now, Coates, as far as we know, has not murdered anybody else, as far as we know. But is he just like getting some sort of vicarious pleasure out of, you know, withholding this knowledge? Does he even, is Lynda actually anywhere where she can be found? Anyway, he says he remembers, oh, that's right, the killer added that a field he has seen on Google Maps has similar indicators to that which led him to believe that police were searching the correct area initially. His letter concluded, I hope that when Police Scotland examine this second field, that they are successful in returning Lynda's remains to her mother. I did not set out to do this, but I did it alone, he said, and I presented Phil Wade with a dead body. Recently, I have apologised to him. Understandably, it was not accepted, as I'm sure any apology to Lynda's mum would be met with a similar response. So now he's saying he did it off his own back. Philip Wade is innocent as far as murder is concerned. Who knows? So, Detective Superintendent, so let's see what date this is. So, I never find the dates on these things. So this was in April 2023, this article. So Detective Superintendent Suzanne Chow of Police Scotland's Major Investigations team, who worked on the search near Dunoon, says the police are aware of the new information and it has been investigated. They say it has not led to the identification of a new area to search, and Lynda's family have been made aware. It's very sad, isn't it? Miss Chow said information received was thoroughly investigated. However, it has not led to any new location to search or any new evidence. Lynda's family have been informed of this development and our thoughts are with them during this difficult time. I would ask anyone with information about Lynda's remains to please come forward and speak to officers. All information will be assessed and investigated. So that was that. Let's have a little look at the actual history of this case, like what actually happened. It's so sad. I know all murders are sad, obviously they are, but Lynda, you know, you just you so if you want to shout at her, you know, like bless her, you know, to do that. She obviously was unaware of the type of person she was dealing with. You know, when you try and con people, this is always something, of course, that may happen. You know, you end up, unfortunately, conning the wrong person at the wrong time. And again, I'm not blaming Lynda. Lynda's nothing justifies what this man did to her. He should have just gone to the police, shouldn't he? Or he should have, you know, confronted her or whatever, but not done what he did. Awful for Lynda and her family. So let's have a look at the history of it. So again, this is Lynda. Who was Lynda Spence and what happened to her? So this was in December 2023. So this is quite a recent article in The Sun. So Lynda Spence was brutally kidnapped, tortured and murdered at the young age of 27. And the investigation into her death became one of the longest murder trials in Scotland's history. Bless. So now again, they're calling her a financial advisor. Another YouTube channel I was looking at today that we're going to have a little look at says that she was not a financial advisor. She, but we don't like to talk ill of the dead, of course. Lynda is not here to defend herself in, whatever the reason was, whatever she did to this man, but nothing warrants what happened to her. So she was actually kidnapped off a street in May 2011 and was later reported missing by her parents. When they became concerned, they hadn't heard from her. And tragically for her family, her body has never been found. So there was a documentary in April 2023, the Channel 5 documentary, The Kidnap and Murder of Lynda Spence. So what happened to her? She was kidnapped off the street by Colin Coates and Philip Wade. And the pair took Lynda to the attic of a home in Ayrshire and proceeded to torture her over a 13-day period. She was subject to merciless torture where she was taped to a leather computer chair. And two other men, David Parker and Paul Smith, met them there. So I still think it's ridiculous that they only got 11 years each. I mean, maybe they didn't, participate in the murder, but they could have saved her life. I just think it's awful. Anyway, it's believed that Coates believed Lynda had ripped him off in a land deal worth £85,000 and he was questioning her over what she had done with his money. So it's believed, again, nothing can be certain, but it was believed that she was killed on April the 28th, 2011, more than 2 weeks after she disappeared. Coates became a prime suspect, but was not caught till August 2011, when a witness came forward with information. And that October, the police entered that property in Ayrshire and found a spot of Lynda's blood on the bathroom floor. And after an 11-week trial, Coates and Wade were found guilty of Lynda's abduction, torture, and murder. David and Paul were given the 11-year sentences for assaulting Lynda and holding her captive. And Parker, who owned the property where Lynda was tortured, told police, "I knew she was injured, but I didn't know in what way. I didn't want to know." Oh my God, I tell you, if that was a member of my family that died and he knew and just didn't say anything, well, you'd be really angry, wouldn't you? You'd be pretty angry with him. She was in a frightened state. How could he just leave her there and not say anything? When they put the hacksaw blades through my door, I realised it was high duty serious. What happened to her murderer, Colin Coates? So, Coates and his accomplice Wade were jailed for Lynda's kidnap, torture and murder. Both men denied their guilt but were found guilty by a jury after a lengthy trial. Coates received 33 years. Again, not much, is it, for torture and murder? I mean, how do they value lives? Torture, murder, 33 years. Why not a lot? Or, I just don't get this. It annoys me every time. And Wade received a 30-year term. And again, it reiterates the body has not been found, despite Coates and Wade trying to cooperate with authorities in 2022. So they were taken out of prison on separate occasions to show the location after suggesting her body was buried in a field in Argyll. And in 2014, Patricia, Lynda's mum, made a plea in the Daily Record to Coates and Wade to reveal the location of the body before she dies. She told the killers, "If you have any heart at all, any conscience, just tell me where she is and give me her back. I'm asking with you, I'm pleading with you. Give me Lynda back before anything happens to me." Now, I wonder if we can, let's see if we can see that. I don't know. Yeah, because she has cancer. She has cancer. Patricia Spence is undergoing chemotherapy for cancer. So she was begging them to reveal the location of Lynda's body She has terminal cancer. So there she is with a photo of her daughter, and she wants to bury her daughter before something happens to her. That was her only child as well. And she says that the doctors have given her 2 years, maybe less. Now, they describe them as gangland monsters. You know, here she is, bless, with, you can tell she's having a chemotherapy. She's got the scarf on with the photo of her daughter. I don't know if they were gangsters. Did Lynda know what dangerous men she was dealing with? I don't know. Maybe she didn't realise just how dangerous they were. So yeah, her high stakes business had underworld links, and it spiraled out of control. And she played with fire in 2011 when she crossed Coates and Wade. She squandered £85,000 of his money on a dodgy land deal and pawned 2 of his Rolex watches and fleeced Wade's brother of £2,000. But the price she paid for her folly was beyond horrific. They cut off her thumb and severed the tip of her little finger. They smashed her knees with a golf club, and her toes were crushed with garden loppers. She was burned with an iron and cigarettes, beaten brutally and repeatedly, and left in her own blood and filth for days on end. She was not allowed to go to the toilet. Anyway, it's believed, here he is, Mr. Coates. It's believed he finally smothered her, then cut off her head before hiding her remains. Now, first of all, I am going to show you some video of Mr. Coates. He was a cross-dresser, but I don't want any hate towards cross-dressers, because, you can't say that just because one person who's a cross-dresser murdered somebody, that all cross-dressers are bad. Just like you can't say that because one man murdered his wife, that all men are wife murderers, or one person. So I don't want any hate towards cross-dressing. The only reason I'm going to show this video is I want people to see, because when you see the picture of him, and he just look, I want people to see what a horrible individual is, not because of being a cross-dresser, but you'll see when you see the video. Copious amounts of drugs, just very scary person. And when I watch the video of him, it just gives you an idea of what poor Lynda must have seen. Obviously not the cross-dressing side of it, but the person that she probably saw in her last days. This was what was facing her. This was the person that was facing her, torturing her. You see the real him, not just the picture of him like on his mugshot where he's just like butter wouldn't melt. You see the real Colin and what sort of person he is. Anyway, last April, Patricia and Lynda's dad, James, went to the murder house with 2 of her friends to mark the 2nd anniversary of her death. His new owner had turned it back into a normal, decent home, but Patricia was still overcome with grief as soon as she stepped inside. This was a while ago, obviously. And she said it was a horrible feeling. We laid flowers and said a prayer, but we didn't wander around or go up into the loft. We were too upset. We had to leave. I don't know if I thought I'd get closure or I'd feel Lynda, but I didn't. I just had to see it in my mind. And when I saw the surroundings, I realised she would have had no chance. She couldn't have jumped out the window or banged on the glass. Nobody would have heard her. So this is Philip Wade, the other perpetrator. Patricia has blocked out most of the details of what was done to Lynda, but she's haunted by the fact that Coates cut off her thumb. She said, how could a person do that to a young lassie? How could you cut someone's thumb off? Yeah, you've got to be a pretty, you can understand him being angry, but this is beyond angry, isn't it? He is a proper twonk, a proper twonk. He must have done other things before this. Won't have been the first thing he ever did. Anyway, this is a picture of with Lynda. When Lynda was born. Now that's going to make me cry because, I think with any of us that have had children, we've probably got a similar picture to that taken the day after, and you've got so much hope for your child. Dear me, you've got so much hope for your child, and you don't know that your child, that beautiful baby, is going to grow up to be murdered by these two twonks. So anyway, their henchmen, petty crooks and drug addicts, David Parker and Paul Smith, had their murder charges dropped because they admitted assault and gave evidence. They had been paid £10,000 each to babysit Lynda. So he might have lost £85,000 to Lynda, but looks like they had £10,000 each. They had £20,000 to just give them to babysit. That could have got them some of it back. Awful. Anyway, they're at pains to say there, Patricia's not been paid for this interview. Now, let me see when that was, because I need to find out. Is she still fighting her battle with cancer? Hope she hasn't lost a battle with cancer. When was this? It doesn't have a date, does it? Oh, this was in 2014. Let me just see. There, I've got this awful feeling. Is she still alive? So that was quite a long time ago when she made that appeal. No, she must be still alive because just last year he was writing to him. So let's hope that she gets some, some closure. We bandied that word around so much, and it's not much closure, is it really? Just to find out where your child is buried, where her remains are buried, or to find out, we call it closure, but it's sort of better than nothing, but it's still horrible. It doesn't make anything better. Anyway, he had boasted to a cellmate, Coates had boasted to a cellmate that he smothered her, cut off her head and burnt her remains in a furnace. So, but now he's saying that she's in a field somewhere. So that's the problem with these psychopaths. You just cannot believe what they say. The mother will want to know what's happened to her, but is he ever, is he just playing with, is that part of his sick mind and just enjoying himself, like with the power that he's got? During that documentary, the prosecutor, the person who was prosecuted, said, during your time as a prosecutor, some of these cases leave a scar on your soul. There is no doubt about that, because it takes you to the depths of what one human being is capable of doing to another human being. And it's true, isn't it? Because, yeah, of course he was annoyed that she'd stolen money off him. We've all got annoyed about things, but we don't go and do things like that. You've got to be a special sort of twonk, haven't you? I really have got to be a special sort of twonk to do that. But anyway, so people say that life is cheap, and so that's why to them, so to these people, so that's why they cannot they cannot guarantee that they're even telling the truth because they've got a different way of looking at things. So Colin Coates was they're 52, Colin Coates and Philip Wade, and she was only 27. You know, so awful. But they have been looking for her. I think they launched a huge search at one point for her, but nothing was found of any significance. So whether he's just like, you know, as I say, winding everyone up, who knows? Now then, I want to show so what I want to show you is right, how can I put it? So I want to show you this video that was obtained where he was caught on camera sniffing poppers, making references to cocaine, boasting about abduction and extortion, and joking about gay sex. And as I say, I don't want you to think that I don't want anybody, I don't want any homophobic comments or any comments that cross-dressers do these kind of things. This is what he did. He is not a representative of all cross-dressers. This is him. He is the twonk. So apparently he dubbed himself the new gangster in town. Anyway, we're going to have a look at it. Now, I don't know if it's on this website or I have to go to the YouTuber's channel. Yeah. Now, he's been attacked in prison as well. Oh, shame, isn't it? So apparently he... Now, I need to warn you about this video because I found it chilling, literally chilling, because seeing him like this, and I don't mean because he's dressed up, but because of the way he's talking, and you can see he's totally off his face. You just think, is this what Lynda saw in her final days? So just a warning, if you're easily upset, I would advise you not to watch this video. Let me find it.
So she was having a dinner party back at the her house, but it was only girls that were invited that night. I went up to drop off some inspiration, right? And as I went to drop off the inspiration, she handed me something back.
He went to drop off inspiration.
So I went and left for a few hours with my mate Mark. Got absolutely tarted. Turned up at the door later on. She who must not be named was there, right? That's when I turned up. And I turned up just in a pair of stockings.
I turned up just in a pair of... Look, see, this is... I just find it chilling. It's the face like that, and you just think that will be the face that was looking at Lynda, and she was tied, helpless, to the chair, and this is the person. Forget what he's dressed in, just looking at the eyes, because he's probably, to do what he did to her, I expect he was drugged out of his head as well. Then, you know, that would have... that just makes me cold, because it's like you can imagine that looking at you, those eyes. Oh my God, awful.
Oh, don't do it again, honey. You're
sorry.
putting the makeup.
You alright? How are you feeling?
My confidence has been kind of moved up a couple of rungs since I've been, you know, given the full show makeover.
Do you take a sniff of poppers because you don't seem it?
No, that's just me, my normal.
Take a big sniff. A big massive rock and roll one. For me, your wee sister.
For me, take a big sniff. Who is this stupid bitch who's doing the recording?
Right, big.
Oh,
A bigger than that.
Oh, far.
Right. Enjoy.
Oh.
Whoa.
You need a bottle of tea. What? Get pop. Once you've shank pop, you just can't. Oh, sorry.
Exactly. So I just wondered that video is available, but it was easier to record it off this. So I just want to mention I have to mention the YouTube channel because I've pinched a little bit of her video. So this is Zoe Spinnett, and she does crime. I've never seen her before. I've gone over there and subscribed to her. Oh, look. Yeah, a comment there, since YouTube already demonetized this video. Yeah, you know, as soon as you're doing true crime, you know you're going to get demonetized. So she's asking for likes, so let's like it. Yeah, that's the trouble. You know, you want to tell these stories because they are important. You know, the story of Lynda is important. And, you know, but you can't tell them, you know, YouTube don't really like you telling them if they're too graphic. But anyway, what can you do? So I've just you know, stopped worrying about it now. Just put the video out there, and if they demonetize it, they demonetize it, and that's all. You know, you've got to just make the videos you want to make, tell the story that you want to tell, and then see what happens afterwards. So there you go. So that is the very sad story of Lynda. Now, what can we learn from that? Well, one thing we can learn is, and as I say, I'm not victim blaming, but we can learn that maybe you should be careful who you're defrauding. You know, of course, the mistake she made. It seems like she knew Colin. She knew things about him. She knew that he was like a gangland, you know, he's involved in drugs and this, that, and the other. It wasn't a good person. But unfortunately, I think she got in too deep and she just didn't realise the danger she was putting herself in. So I think that's really very sad, isn't it? That she didn't realise that. Let's have one more. No, let's not. I think I don't want to look at him again. Okay, so that's it. So let's hope one day her remains will be found, just to give her mother and father some peace. I know it can't change anything, won't bring Lynda back. You know, it really won't. So we call it closure, but what sort of closure is it? It's just, I suppose, just knowing that you can give your loved one a decent burial and a peaceful burial and a service, etc. It must be awful just to think you don't know where they are, lying out there somewhere. Will he ever come clean and tell he says he's telling the proper story now, that he's telling the truth now, but I don't know. It won't be the first time that these type of people come out and say things, and then it turns out they're not actually telling the truth, or they're not actually giving him relevant information. I just want to have a look at it when he was attacked in prison. I don't know how is he's been given an extra year behind bars, apparently, in 2021, because he was caught with a mobile phone. He's been breaking prison rules. So apparently prison staff were tipped off. So that's another year he's been given on top of his 33-year sentence. Gosh. They're saying Coates still has a lot of pals who he keeps in touch with, and the phone was a lifeline. He'd got into the habit of wiping the phone's memory after every call and message in case he got caught. He doesn't care about having 12 months added to his sentence. So apparently when he was moved to His Majesty's prison in Glenakill in 2009, oh, no, the reason he was moved to His Majesty's prison Glenakill in 2019, he was caught with a pointed plastic weapon measuring 3 inches long, stashed down his trousers. And this blade was found after he was fighting with other convicts. And he was sentenced to 4 months to run concurrent with his life service. Oh, goodness me. You know, why do they even sort of indulge these people? I don't know. He's like, even in prison, he hasn't learned anything. He's still violent. He's still, you know, everything. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe he'll find God and maybe we'll come out and do something decent eventually. The thing is, if he's burnt her ashes in a fireplace or whatever, if he's incinerated her body parts and that, he's not going to be able to show them where her remains are. Or is he just going to show them, you know, where the ashes are buried? Or is that what he's trying to do? Anyway, the police haven't found anything so far in the searches that they've made. So we just have to see what happens in the future. Okay, that's it. So thank you very much for watching. I think the moral of this story is, yes, be careful who you cross, but also, you know, I suppose I don't know much about, you know, Lynda's upbringing, you know, where she lived. I think sometimes when you live in certain areas, it's hard, isn't it? We've talked about this so many times. It's hard to stay away from those sort of people. And sometimes you get sucked into a lifestyle or a social circle, you know, and it's up to you then which way you go. Do you get sucked into it, or do you turn your back on it and try and make something else of your life? And unfortunately for Lynda, she got involved in this circle with these horrible people one way or another, and that resulted in her death. And he, oh gosh, what horrible person. Still gives me the chills just thinking of that video when he put his eyes like that. That's what I just imagine. Poor Lynda with that face looking at her and knowing that she was probably never going to get out of there alive. How awful. Okay, so yeah, not much positive to think of at the end of this one. Sorry about that, but look after you. Stay away from twonks if you can, if you possibly can, and pamper yourself, look after yourself. Remember, you are the most important person, because unless you look after you, you can't look after anybody else. And until I see you again in the next video, may your God go with you. Thank you.